Okay, so extra problems of doing questions number 1 and 2 on the exam. So, the first question, like 1A and 1B, said something about you were supposed to say parameter or statistic. So, all right, now, the average weight of birds in an aviary versus the average weight of birds in a forest. Okay, it is possible. Aviary is just a cage, like at the zoo or whatever, where they keep all the birds together. It would be possible to slowly, one at a time, go through the entire aviary, catch them, store them somewhere else, and actually get the weight of every single bird in the aviary. You're not going to be able to do that with the forest. There's no way you're going to figure out the average weight of birds in the forest. Okay, you're going to have to do a sample. It is not possible. You could do a sample in the aviary, but if you're running the zoo or whatever, you probably want to check on all of them every once in a while anyway. So I would do parameter, population on that one, and statistic on this one. It's just not possible to do that. So you're going to have to do some sort of sample. The mean income for residents of an apartment building versus the mean income for all the residents of the city of New York. Well, it is possible. You might get like a lot of people not wanting to help you out, but it would be possible to actually knock on the door of everyone in the apartment building and find out what their income was. So that's possible. I could do the entire population, but the city of New York, not going to happen. I'm just going to have to do some sort of sample. So if the number's really large or people keep moving around or something like that, when it's not possible to do the entire population, that's when you would write down as a statistic. Okay, so if you have to pick something out, is this possible? Could I do this? Then just go with the survey for that. All right, then the second, question number 1, C and D, was about continuous versus discrete. Discrete is the one where you could count it. Okay. I think people get them messed up because continuous sounds like counting, but that's not true. Discrete is the one that's counting. Okay, I could count all the money in my pocket in cents. I could just count them all out, and I could say I got 53 cents. Okay, I could count all the money in Americans' bank accounts in cents. It's not a question of should I just do a survey. I should probably do a survey on that. But this is a question of counting. Can I count it or can't I? And I can count all the money in my pocket. I can also count all the money in American bank accounts, but it would take forever. But those would be discrete because you can actually come up with a number. Okay, the age of kindergartners on their first day of school. Well, we know that's a whole bunch of, they're really just 5. But it's a whole bunch of different ages. 5 years, 3 months, 2 days, 14 seconds. You're not ever going to be able to get that narrowed down. It's always going to be a decimal of some sort. You can't just come up with their age. And now, a second later, they're a different age. Okay? And so that would definitely be continuous. And again, age is pretty much a continuous thing. The age of sequoias, if I had some, if I was a forester or something and I had to do this, if I had some employee who was trying to figure out the age of the sequoias down to the second, well, it's not going to happen anyway. But you could do it. You need more decimals to figure out their ages, really. Okay? Unless you want to limit, you want to tell the guy who works for you, just say 103. You don't have to say down to the second. You don't have to do that. You could limit them. So age is usually continuous because you could do any decimal. Something where you can't, in cents, if it's in cents, there's no way to do decimals. If you can't do decimals on it, then it's discrete. Okay, it's not a question of could I do it because it would take me the rest of my life to do this. It's a question, that would be a question for up here. It's just a question of, are you going to come out with nice integer answers or are you going to need decimals? All right, and then there was nominal, interval. It was nominal, ordinal, interval ratio. Okay, and we did them in this order, but then I said on the review, I said, okay, and I rearranged them just to try and be confusing. Interval is the one you need to concentrate on. Start with interval. That was time or temperature, and I went online, got some more examples, and they still couldn't come up with anything besides time or temperature. Time on a clock with hands, because obviously there's no starting point. It's just going round and round and round. There's no zero on that. Okay, but time. I see the word time. Oh, good. I know that's where interval goes. Same thing with degrees Fahrenheit. That's definitely interval because that's a temperature. And time of day. This, in the example, that wasn't even numbers. That was like whether it's dawn or lunchtime or evening. It wasn't a time of day in terms of like, oh, it's 10:42 a.m. It was just in words. It had, and on the example online, it had the words dawn, lunch, evening, night, midnight. So those are just words. Time and temperature, I got those. Okay, now anything else that's numbers. Number of children, yes. So that's where an R goes. Socioeconomic class, like whether, you're in poverty or you're the super wealthy or whatever, that's not numbers, that's just a word. Hair color, like, brown, blonde, whatever, that's not numbers. Years of education, that is numbers. Okay, religious preference, whether you're like Christian or Jewish or whatever, those are words. Time of day, as I said, dawn, lunchtime, evening. Those ones, again, those are just meant to be words. They were words in the example. All right, so now I've got down to ones that are words. And the question is, can I put them in order? Okay, hair color doesn't have an agreed upon order. All right, blonde, brown, black. We're all going to come up with a different order for what we think the best hair color is. We're not going to agree upon an order there at all. So that would be nominal. Same thing with religious preference. You might have a preference for a certain religion, but it's not the same agreement through the whole planet. There's plenty of people who disagree with you on the order of the religions. So as long as it's not an agreed upon order, that's nominal. Socioeconomic class, okay, poverty versus middle class versus wealthy. That's definitely an order. We all know what the order is, and we all agree that the wealthy people are doing the best. That has an order. Same thing with this time of day. It's in order. Dawn happens before lunch. Lunch happens before evening. Evening happens before midnight. That's got an order to it as well.